Hey, everybody, Kelly Jackson, and a very happy Sunday afternoon post election. This last Thursday, we had our general elections for the county seats, which bit of a shocker for those of us in Williamson County. Three Democrats were elected to our county, three of our county seats, two on the school board, which, let's be honest, there was always a Democrat sitting in District 10 on the school board. He just had an R after his name, and his name was Eric Welch. So the fact that they ran a Democrat in that district and they won, that should not be a shock to anybody, really. Eric Welch is a liberal. Everybody knows that. He just never was able to run as a Democrat, but they have a new chair. She actually should really be congratulating herself. They were smart. I'm not pro-Democrat, just so that I don't get accused by the cons over on the other side that I'm some kind of shadow Democrat or a Democrat hiding or whatever. I'm just objective, okay? And I've been following this new Democrat party chair for Williamson County for a little over the last year. And what I can tell you that I have found out from just what I've read of published reports, that interviews that she's given, her name is Reagan, and I can't remember her last name, but she basically is playing things, I think, pretty smart because, first of all, we underestimated the number of Democrats that live in Williamson County. And the reason that we've always underestimated it is because as Williamson County got redder and redder, the previous Democrat party chair preferred just to sort of work with the establishment Republicans and take whatever crumbs of power they handed her. But this Democrat is not doing that. She wants to rebuild the Democrat Party. So therefore, this election, you saw a lot more people who are Democrats running as Democrats, which that's honest. I'd much rather see that. And then what that did is she's smart because she knows unless she gives people a reason to show up to the polls so that because they have somebody to vote for, they're not going to show up. So she's also made sure that none of them came across as radical nut jobs because, as you all know, in Colorado and New York and Wisconsin and Michigan, the Democratic Socialists of America are taking over. They're hijacking the Democrat Party in lots of other places in the country. So what she's managed to do is she said it in the Williamson Herald article. Yes, I read it. I read the competition. She said they're moderates. They're not, so far over to the left. She's trying to create a space for old school liberals to feel like they have a home. And it worked. And yes, we only had 3 Democrats that were elected, but the ones that lost, they didn't necessarily lose by a whole lot. So when you look at the election numbers over the last handful of years, it would appear to some people, based on just the numbers, that, we're a 70-30 mix here in Williamson County, 70% Republican, 30% Democrat. I always knew that there were Democrats out there that were just not showing up to the polls, or they were showing up to the primaries and pulling a Republican ballot and, all of the crossover voting that we've had. But I always theorized that our mix was more like 60-40. Well, after this last election, I actually think we're more like 45-55, somewhere in there. Because you're going to see a lot of them come out and vote. And they're going to vote for Democrats. Because, let's face it, we probably, especially Franklin, we're kind of purple, you guys. We're not as red. They've been telling you that. The establishment Republicans have been telling you that. We're red. We're red. We're a red nirvana. It's red Williamson County. No. And this last election, even though most elections were won by Republicans, But I will tell you, a lot of them were won by establishment Republicans that had lots of millions and millions of dark PAC money poured into their elections. Yeah, we're not as red as they're telling you. I've always called Williamson County a red facade. It's a red facade. And so that's just a fact. So keep an eye on what goes on at our county commission. We've now, which I'm sorry, it was a delicious thing for me to see Cheryl Brown lose her election to a Democrat, because the establishment Republicans always gave us crap about how we were demanding that actually principled conservatives run for these seats and actually govern as principled conservatives. And they used to just really give us a hard time about that. I'm glad to see that she for whatever reason, and I don't know if it was District 10, because it was the same district. It's District 10. She couldn't pull it off. A Democrat beat her. So District 10, you're at the very least, you're very purpley blue. Purpley blue. That's what you are. Anyway, so there was that. We had that. We lost some of our best people back in the May primaries, Chris Richards and Lisa Hayes, and, thank God. So we're going to move on to what happened with our state and federal. Of course, Andy Ogles lost his seat, which, I'm in the new D9, so I know Andy had his issues, but the fact that Charlie Hatcher was elected with like $2 million in green energy PAC money from California, and endorsed by Bill Lee, endorsed by Marsha Blackburn's people, endorsed by all the establishment Republicans, and he took money and was elected with money through a green energy PAC. And by the way, a big contributor to that PAC, Joe Biden's energy secretary. Just keep that in mind when he tries to tell you that he's a conservative, because there you go. And then, of course, the new D9, Brent Taylor, took that race, but Todd Warner, he came in second. And if nothing else, at least I feel this way, Todd's a friend of mine, and he's one of our best stalwart conservatives in our state house. I'm glad we're still going to have him there. Thank God. We're still going to have him there. So we can count him in, and he'll be a fighter for us in our Tennessee State House. So we love you, Todd, and we're so glad you're going to at least be there. It sucks that he lost, though, because if you look at what Charlotte Bergman and Jeremy Thompson pulled from Todd, what Todd probably would have voted for Todd, because they didn't vote for Brent Taylor, it looks, if you do the math, I haven't done the exact math, but I think Todd Warner could have beat Brent Taylor had the other two not been in the race. And then I guess the same thing could be said for the governor's race. But I was at an SEC, they had a special session of the State Executive Committee, GOP, yesterday in Nashville. And there was conversation at that meeting about runoff elections. So we could be, in our near future, possibly looking at some runoff elections if we can't get the primaries closed. I have a theory about that too. I think they've been killing our party registration bills for the last two General Assemblies, so the last 4 years. I think they've been killing those party registration bills for the last 4 years because they were waiting for Marsha to come in, and that's a big issue here. She'll come in and she'll make that General Assembly close those primaries, and so that way she gets to take credit for it. So I think they've been reserving that issue for her, just the way that they sat around and watched the illegals get busted and flown in, so that when President Trump came back into the White House, then they could ride his coattails cleaning up the mess that they sat and watched get made. They watched it get made over that 4 years that Joe Biden was in the White House. Bill Lee did nothing. Not even Marsha. Like, Marsha didn't even say, hey, there's a lot of illegals getting busted into my state. What's up with that? She didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. They just said, well, federal government, sorry, can't do anything about it. And they just let it happen. Because they knew President Trump was going to come back in, and then they could team up with President Trump, and we support President Trump. It's all a load of crap. They just wanted to be able to look conservative without actually being conservative unless it benefits them. We know that's how they all are. So the other thing about the governor's race, and I've been seeing this, it's the main reason that I jumped on here, because there have been a lot of people over the last couple of days absolutely losing their ever-loving minds because, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if we don't all, coalesce around Marcia, then we could end up having a Democrat governor. Oh my gosh. And I've even seen people say stupid crap like, well, she'll change our taxes, or she'll do this, or Jerry Green is who they're talking about. If worst case scenario, if she ever got elected, worst case scenario, she'll do all of these things. Well, no, she would be the governor. The governor doesn't write laws, you guys. The governor doesn't even have to sign them in Tennessee for them to become law. We have a Republican supermajority. We got 75 R's up there. Do you really, really think that they're going to be writing green energy policy? And actually, it might be a good telltale sign as to whether or not the policy that they're writing is actually conservative. Because unless someone like me looked at it and told you, you guys, it sounds conservative, but it's not really conservative. It has no teeth in it. The majority of the bills that they write don't have teeth in them, like the chemtrail bill. I hear that all the time too. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't Tennessee pass a law we aren't supposed to have chemtrails? Yeah, they didn't put any teeth in it. There's no enforcement mechanism in those bills. So a lot of the bills that they write that sound conservative have no enforcement mechanism in them. And nobody knows this until someone like me or, one of the other conservative orgs informs you of that. You have to show up down there and you have to remind them who they work for and that they have to put, so worst case scenario, you get another Democrat governor. How is that going to be any different than the last 20 years? Phil Bredesen, okay, he was a moderate Democrat. And then Bill Haslam, he was just a moderate Democrat with an R after his name. Same with Bill Lee, moderate Democrat with an R after his name. We've only been a red state for 21-ish years, you guys. This was a Democrat state for 130 years. So somewhere around, I guess, 23, 24 years ago, when the party shifted and things started to look different and the Democrats became all about abortion on demand and gays in the military, this is the Bible Belt, a lot of people didn't like that. Yeah, they were Democrats, but they were Democrats when the Democrat Party was the party of the little people. So all of these people, like Bill Haslam, like Bill Lee, all of these people really are just Clinton Democrats. That's really all they are. They're Clinton Democrats that rebranded and became Bush Republicans in order to maintain their power and relevancy. And the ones that are left after this long of a time are masquerading as Trump conservatives. They slap President Trump's face on a flyer and they just decide that, people aren't going to ever check. So we're just going to put President Trump's face on there and they're never going to really see whether or not we actually govern the way we tell people we're going to govern. So honestly, what's the difference? And Marsha Blackburn will be just the same. She will not be any more conservative than Bill Lee was, than Bill Haslam was, or than Phil Bredesen was. Phil Bredesen was a Democrat. So we've never really had a truly conservative governor, ever. So I don't know why everyone is freaking out. I really can't figure it out. Because a governor can't unilaterally create law. They just would sign a law or veto a law. But here in Tennessee, like I said, if our legislature passes it, after 10 days, even if the governor doesn't sign it, it becomes law. That's in our Constitution. So I really honestly don't know why everyone is freaking out. We actually have some independent options that look pretty good. I've been looking at David Hatley, really very carefully looking at David Hatley. So I'm getting very weary as someone who grew up in a Western state where I heard this over and over again. Oh, we have to vote for them even though they suck. They're the Republican, and if we don't, well, then this is what's going to happen. It ended up happening anyway, because those people were never actually principled conservatives. So it doesn't really matter unless they are you're going to vote for. You don't have to hold your nose to vote for them. So let's really think hard about whether or not it's actually going to make that much of a difference in our daily lives, considering that we have a Republican supermajority. I'd say it's kind of like out in Arizona. They have a legislature that is a Republican majority. Their House and their Senate is Republican majority, and they have a Democrat governor. She gets nothing done. She gets nothing done because they won't. She'll veto their stuff. So no, it's like gridlock. It's like gridlock. And in our case, if they actually wrote a substantively conservative bill, she'd probably veto it, and that would give us a good indication that it's actually substantively conservative. So I am not going to fall for the Chicken Little, the sky is falling, oh my gosh, we have to all, vote R, or it's the end of the world. We've only been a red state for 20-ish years, and quite frankly, most of the people who sit in our legislature aren't really conservatives. They have an R after their name, but we have maybe, I can count maybe on both hands. Maybe between the House and the Senate, people that I know that are solid conservatives in our state legislature. That's it. So we're going to have some other ones joining us. Jessica Means, she took out one of the worst rhinos. She took out I can't think of his name. I always want to call him Colonel Sanders. He's way out there in East Tennessee, Virginia Sea out there. John Crawford, he was one of the worst. She beat him. He lost his seat. Dennis Powers lost his seat to Noah Smith. That's great news. Unfortunately, Will Bolton was not successful, and that totally sucks. And neither was John Llewellyn. That totally sucks. So we're going to have to take the wins that we can take, but it would have been a little easier if we'd had more hands and feet and people, helping. We've got to all get in it. It's got to be all hands on deck. All hands on deck. Otherwise, we're not going to get any of it done that we want to get done. So I've been yammering on here for 18 minutes. I think I've said everything I want to say. I have 2 YouTube channels, which of course Truthwire has its own YouTube channel. I actually have another YouTube channel. It's called Still Not Canceled. I am talking about national politics and also faith and modern culture, Christianity and modern culture type of issues. That's over there on that, and I can certainly put a link in my Facebook. But I'm going to be interviewing the gal that is leading the charge over at the Daughters of the American Revolution, Laura McDonald, that is fighting to take back their organization from men who think they're women, and the leadership in that organization that is making a space for men who think they're women. I'm going to be having a few more interviews with some other folks that we're going to talk about the LGBTQ agenda and redemption from that wicked agenda and the lies that Satan tells you that living your authentic self is going to make you happy. People who have been redeemed through Jesus from that agenda. We're going to be interviewing somebody like that, and we're going to be doing a lot of things in the coming few weeks. So, I'm going to have some voter integrity people. I'm going to be talking to one of our best voter integrity people in Tennessee, Kathy Harms. She and I are going to interview on Thursday. That will be out probably the following week. We're going to talk about the directive that President Trump has put out to the entire country, to every Secretary of State. They want to see all your voter rolls, Tennessee. And guess what? We haven't complied with all the aspects of the things that President Trump has asked them to comply with. We aren't fully turning over our voter rolls. Shocker, right? So we're going to be talking about that this Thursday, and so I'll try to get that out by Friday, but it might be Monday before you see it. But anyway, those things are coming. If you feel the need to, please support me. I don't do this because it makes me, I do this because I know how the story ends, because I lived in a state where it's completely, there's no saving it. We can still save this, but I'm independent and I do this because I feel compelled to. This isn't a hobby. This is something that I feel is a necessity, but, I really could use the support. So if you feel like supporting me, you can go over to truthwirenews.com and I've got a little donate button. But if you please subscribe too, all it costs you is the cost of the price of admission is just your email address, and you'll get the newsletter. You'll get, when I publish, you'll get that. And so that's all I have to say about that. I hope everybody's having a great Sunday. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you again on the next one. Bye-bye.